Brian Runk, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
So setting that up, you're saying you had 72 hours to make the biggest decision in your company history.
Relationships matter. That can give you strength during the times that you're making those really big, overwhelming decisions.
I don't think that we entered that with a lot of fear. I think that we were very confident, excited, thankful for the opportunity.
Being your son and being in the company now for roughly 15 years or so, I can say you both have very different leadership styles.
Tell people that they're not computers, they're not robots, you can't program them. I mean, I'm always saying that, if you're getting 75% out of somebody, you should be happy because you can't expect perfection.
There were some times in my younger years that my expectations weren't met, specifically with, patient care or handling an issue with a family or whatever. And it wouldn't have been unlike me just to go in on that shift and finish that shift myself and let that caregiver go, and I would take her place until it was time to get off. I don't do that anymore. I've learned that we need to teach and mentor.
A lot of people don't realize, how much effort and time is going on behind the scenes for any business that's out there.
But you took the time to set and reprimand that employee. So as a leader, you need to go let them know you are now reaching your goals, and I am so proud of you for that.
Sure did.
That's exactly right. To go get some ice cream.
Yes. And it's so exciting to be a part of.
It's going to be amazing.
It really is. It's one of the biggest things I think we've learned.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for swinging by the show today. As always, I am your co-host, and across the table from me is my mother. Welcome to Around the Table with Vickie.
Yes. Welcome. We're so glad to have you with us this morning. And throughout the rest of the day, we're going to be doing a few shows here today, and we have already done a few. So we've been in the studio for a while.
We have been in the studio today for quite a while, recording a lot of great content that we're excited to bring to everyone. I do want to introduce my dad, Brian Runk. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Seem to be a reoccurring figure, so becoming a staple. So it's always glad to have you.
Always love it.
It's really nice, let me say, too, before we get too much into this episode, that I've received a lot of emails and Facebook messages and those listeners that are enjoying what we're putting out. Thank you so much for writing in to me and letting me know that you're enjoying certain topics and things that you want to hear more of. And one of the things that I hear more and more is they want to hear more about how we grew our business and leadership and just behind the scenes kind of moments. So we have a great writer for the show who's put together a few questions today for the next 30 minutes. So sit back and enjoy.
So we're going to jump in. Today's topic is kind of a tough one. They're monumental moments in any entrepreneurship journey that are defining moments, whether those are tough calls or you think back to important turning points. I would imagine most people in entrepreneurship remember those moments pretty vividly. And so today we're going to hop into some questions that concerning tough calls and turning points in our company history. So I'm excited to do that.
And we've not rehearsed or even really read the script, so this is going to be straight up.
We are shooting from the hip here, which is good, which is kind of how they always end out. Those are the best ones. So, Mom, kind of open us up. What is a personal reflection on how leadership has changed you and your growth and your vision and, 32 years in 33, sorry, get everyone in. I imagine that your style and how you approach staff from when you were 20 years old, and I won't say how old you are now, but I imagine I know they have changed.
I was getting ready to say, you could probably answer that yourself. You've seen it all.
Quite a bit throughout the years. So just kind of set us up there.
Yeah, I think when you're younger, you have that adrenaline flowing through you that I'm the boss and the buck stops here and you will do as I say. I quickly learned with the help of your father, who has a different personality than I do. That's why we work so well together, that not everybody is robots and you have to meet them where they're at. There were some times in my younger years that my expectations weren't met, specifically with, patient care or handling an issue with a family or whatever, and it wouldn't have been unlike me just to go in on that shift and finish that shift myself and let that caregiver go, and I would take her place until it was time to get off. I don't do that anymore. I've learned that we need to teach and mentor along the way, and I learned that the hard way. So I probably had some high blood pressure problems well before I knew I had high blood pressure, which I do. But, I think anytime you mature in a business or even in life, you change, your approach and you find what works. And so now, we bring an employee in and we talk about, what are your struggles? Why are you not meeting your goals? How can I help you do that? I think you said in a very recent conversation with an employee, a couple of employees, and I really mentored them. And now, fast forward 8 weeks after that conversation, we just got our first person right in that was giving that employee accolades on how well the things were going. And so I think that conversation that we had with that employee, you and I together, the mentorship that I offered them, that here we are and here's where we want to go, and how can I help you get there? So being a good leader is being willing to do it yourself as well. So showing that employee or that team member that you're with, I'm willing to help you get there because I believe in you. So how do we get from where we are right now, where I'm not really happy with your performance, to where I know you can go? And so I think that that's something I've learned from the younger me, that, just going in and letting somebody go isn't always the right decision.
You touched on a really great thing there that I know as friends with other business owners and entrepreneurs, and I see it time and time again. And you just made a statement that, yes, we tend to only hear the bad. We tend to only hear the problems, but how it's so rejuvenating to hear when things, as a listener base, those that are listening to us, don't only take the time to tell us what's wrong or to write that bad review or to go Google and just slam a company. A lot of people don't realize, how much effort and time is going on behind the scenes for any business that's out there. And just to really think about, before you leave a review, put yourself in that company's position. You have no idea whether they're short-staffed, if they can even find staff. Yes, there's the expectations of what a business should be doing. And we seem to have maybe even lost a little bit of that culture, in my opinion, ever since COVID. You kind of just accept that, where you're at. But that magic of business, whenever you do see it, I think it's important for the general public to let people know. And like you just referenced, somebody did take the time to write in to one of our email accounts and praise a staff member. And I was the one that actually was able to show that staff member. And you would not believe the difference it made in that person's day, to realize that they maybe weren't doing the right thing, but we corrected and we made an adjustment. And a lot of times on those reviews, that's where you miss it.
Yeah,
you don't get the chance to go back and follow up. It's easy to just write it, but then let somebody go have a chance to go back and fix it. So
yeah, and I think then the leader needs to go and be with the person and let them know, this is how well you've done, and because of that, I'm going to reward you with this. Because if you can know in your, through your emails and stuff that person's doing better, but you took the time to sit and reprimand that employee. So as a leader, you need to go let them know you are now reaching your goals, and I am so proud of you for that. And also the leader then needs to go into that place of business and openly acknowledge every time they're in and out, hey, you guys are doing such a great job. I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it. Those are words of affirmation that we all need to feel, because life is hard enough. And we've talked about, Brian, before that, our employees spend more time with us than they do their own families. And that's just part of working, that's the work life. And so if we're constantly putting each other down or not creating an environment in which one can correct their mistakes, then we're never going to grow that business. And that's what our whole goal is to all of our listeners that have businesses. It's your goal to grow that business, and employees and the way they treat your customers has everything to do with how much you will grow.
Dad, kind of following up on that same question, Mom briefly mentioned your different leadership styles. And I know Watching you both, being your son and being in the company now for roughly 15 years or so, I can say you both have very different leadership styles. It's amazing to watch them complement each other perfectly throughout your history. Perfectly. I mean, y'all offset each other really, really well. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you think your leadership style has changed over the last 33 years?
Well, I think as a follow-up to what she said before, I think you can never overlook what a kind word does for people. I think it's very important to make sure that you recognize things, especially when you're talking to staff. Sometimes the fact that you just ask them how their day is or something small, that's a big deal to people. Sometimes I'm surprised by just acknowledging people or making the smallest comment really does make them feel approachable or that you care about stuff when you're really just trying to be nice. So I think one of the biggest factors is really just how you carry yourself and being inviting and knowing what's around you so that you can acknowledge people and really just know the impact that makes to them long term with that. Management styles. I mean, I've always been one. We've had this conversation many times about, I always tell people that they're not computers, they're not robots, you can't program them. I mean, I'm always saying that, if you're getting 75% out of somebody, you should be happy because you can't expect perfection. I mean, people screw up, people have family issues that are going on, and they just, that sometimes shows itself in their work world. You have to understand life happens. And I think that when you invest in an employee and you train them, you bring them on, and train them on your culture, you have to be patient. Most things don't work right away. People need some time to get acclimated. They need some time to find the ropes, and you really got to give people time to sort of adjust. I think sometimes in the early days we reacted to things too quickly, maybe didn't give people sufficient time to find their way. I think as we've aged, at least for me, I've try not to sweat the small stuff. Really try to look at the bigger picture. I always say, if the goal is to get from point A to B, I don't care if you go left and my goal is to go right. As long as you get where you want to go and as long as you accomplish the goal, to me, it's the end result that you're trying to gain that matters most. Not how you do it specifically, but as long as we agree on the result that we're trying to get.
Well, I think that I wanted to set up your styles because I think your styles also play a point in determining your decision making whenever you are met with adversity, whether it be a tough call, whether it's a staff member or a decision to grow your business or how to handle that next thing. So, are there, Mom, are there any moments that really stand out for you as a turning point moment in any of your 11 companies that you may want to bring up that you could be like, that moment right there. Mm-hmm. And there's so many. I know I'm asking a really hard question there.
Yeah, but I will always say the same. That question is very easy for me to answer. And we've talked about it on the show very early when we were telling our story. But it was the building of Liberty Ridge and how fast that happened for me, and the fact that I had to make an appointment to go see Dr. Jerry Falwell Sr. so he could pray with us and kind of give his blessing and guide us a little bit in that decision. It was such a big building. It was very pivotal in our career. It was a game changer for us. And from that moment on, nothing has ever been the same for us. And so I'll never forget the prayers that went into that. Maybe even a little fasting and just really seeking God's wisdom in that, because it took us almost doubled our size in just a matter of 13, 14 months. And so anytime you experience that kind of growth, it has a hold on you during the time, but it also produces, an element of, oh my goodness moments that you have to emotionally work yourself through. So we did go through that, and we knew without a doubt whenever we signed the papers that it was God's will, but it still was one of the largest buildings to this day that we've ever done a design build straight out of the ground. And then less than 2 years later, Pearls of Life was built right across the street. So the growth of immersing over 260 beds on one campus for us was it was something that changed us forever.
I wouldn't even say out of the ground. It was out of a mountainside, right, Dad? I mean,
Lots of rock.
Didn't you take dynamite to that
We
site?
did, yeah. There was supposed to be a garage under there. That was actually built on rock, and the garage never happened. They had to dynamite the whole, hillside there. It increased costs. So there was a lot of hurdles up front with that. But she's right. That was a game changer for us. But I also think that because we were younger, we maybe were a little naive to that. I mean, you think you can conquer everything. It was a great opportunity. So I think for us, we saw the potential for what it could do. And, that was a motivator. Whereas I think as you get older, sometimes you may be a little more realistic with stuff. Whereas you can, you just want to go out and tackle the world when you get those kind of opportunities as well.
The other thing that did is it really solidified our love for Liberty University. I mean, the fact that Dr. Falwell had his original vision was to have a retirement community there. And, that God chose us as lay people to now go bring that to life and to connect it with all the wonderful things that the students are doing there and the university's growth and being able to care for professors' families from all over the country. California, I mean, I'm always getting face sheets in where people are moving off from all over the country to come here and be with people that serve on the staff of Liberty University. Because we went to the university, you did, your sister did as well. I mean, it was such an honor now to look back and say, we're so glad that God chose us for that. And it was a pivotal moment in our career. But there was a lot of, time and energy, and your whole being is put into that.
Well, that kind of follows up my next question. You talk about a turning point decision that was that big. And I remember it as well. I mean, it was a big deal. Do you kind of want to set up what was at stake and the amount of, you mentioned the emotional drain, and I know, I know everything that went into, the build out and working design wise and getting exactly what you wanted. But then when you're actually faced, all right, it's opening day. I got to find staff. I got to find all the residents, how to make the money work. I mean, there was a lot at stake with that. And I can imagine, like you said, physically, emotionally, took a large toll.
Yeah, I have high blood pressure because of it to this day. Knowing that you've got 192 rooms sitting in front of you. I still remember we took that picture of all the lights on in the building, and your dad and I were at the top of the hill, and you took a picture of us looking down at that building. And that picture says it all. It says that there are, two business people that are married, that are following God, and all of the doors that are opening during that moment. But it also says that we bear that burden. And, I think there was a lot of money at stake, of course. There were relationships that were having to be formed with staff and training. And I just know that at the end of the day that God made all the pieces of the puzzle work. We've talked about on this show, whenever the piece of the puzzle just will not easily go into that spot, then it's not of God, and it's not something you should be doing. But during that time, we knew that, God had opened a huge door for that piece of growth in our history, and we had to trust. And there was never a time that we didn't trust. And the Lord brought the people through the doors. And it was amazing now looking back. We just celebrated 10-year anniversary last year. We're going into our 11th year. How many people we've been able to service, our own family. My aunt, who helped raise me, she had no children, and she was able to live in that facility for 5 years before she passed. Your mother, Brian's mom, lived there, your grandmother, and how many more people there is to help. There's been so many people from Liberty that have come in and out of that doors, and I like to talk about it, but I always like to make it real too. We are not perfect, and there has been times through COVID that staffing has caused issues, and we continue to perfect that trade. I'm still glad that we're there to hold everybody's hands because, 33 years of experience on this end of things, 5 years in nursing home. Previous to that, I have 38 years of experience. So there's not a whole lot that I haven't seen or done. And it's kind of neat now to be on this side of the table, watching so many staff do their thing. and really not needing me. Sometimes that's a little daunting, but they're doing such a great job. And leadership changes as you age in business, as your business gets older. The things that you used to be in that facility doing, now we're standing and watching other people do it for us and doing such a great job.
But in a leadership role, that's exactly what you want to do.
That's right.
You want to create an environment where your other staff members grow and flourish, and you're able to go hands off and step back. And how thankful we are for those team members, also to your leadership style, that you're able to do that, because that doesn't happen by itself.
It doesn't. And some of our people have been with us 10 plus years, and that doesn't happen very often either. Sometimes people switch and change. Sometimes this kind of work isn't for them. The nurses, the RNs and LPNs that we have on duty, if you hear their stories, it's amazing. I mean, we just hired a new nurse that started at Liberty Ridge as a CNA, and we just hired her in as an administrator in training, RN, at our new Willow Ridge, almost 10 years later. Those are such powerful stories, and I love to take the time when I walk in to hear their journey, where they start. So many of them started with us 10 years ago. They go get trained in new credentials and come back and take huge leadership roles. We call them homegrown. And there's no greater joy than to say, I remember you. I'm glad we planted the seed for, to better yourself, go get more education, and now come back and help us run this mega world of senior living that we have right here in this 45-mile radius.
Dad, I kind of want to pose the same question to you, Liberty Ridge, but a little bit different angle. I know many times as I'm getting more involved in the business and I learn what it all means and how it all works and how the money all flows, I step back and think to 2014 was when Liberty Ridge opened. And,
April of 14, yeah.
And I know what all was at stake. And again, we're talking about what it cost you emotionally, physically, the burden that a leader in entrepreneur bears. I looked at you several times and say, and you kind of commented, maybe we were naive back then. But on day one, when the doors open and the bank comes knocking and the payments start that month, and you're kind of, what does that look like? How do you feel? Because I know I would be a nervous wreck. I stay a nervous wreck. I'll admit it most days anyway. So if I had to look at that.
We mentor you these days. That's right.
That's right. No, I
but
think
you handled it so great and where we are now. But walk us through that process a little bit, because I know not every business out there is, there's a lot at stake.
I'm just going to plant this in your mind, because then you can go with it. You are really big on relationships with people that help you get, to that point to where we are opening a door. And I think you relied a lot on the relationships that you had.
Yeah, we had a company that had helped us acquire some properties and helped us grow. And the back door to that is that the company that was helping us in some of our growth, they had the first opportunity to move into that building. And we felt that if that would happen, that would have really sort of harmed us, because that was a large building. It would have been the major player in the whole town. And we were doing well and growing, but that kind of building it is a game changer. They got an opportunity to do something in the Virginia Beach area, but they had to choose one or the other.
It was right on the ocean, too.
It was a great property.
Senior living.
And they had to choose one or the other. And they chose the one in Virginia Beach. And I remember the day that we got the call from this person, and he said, listen, we have this opportunity. We've worked with you guys.
I think we had 72 hours.
Yeah, it was really, really quick. And they said, we had to make a quick decision. We've worked with you. We feel like this isn't your back door. They went through this whole opportunity. We had to make a quick choice.
So setting that up, you're saying you had 72 hours to make the biggest decision in your company history ever. And it was one of those things that if you didn't decide to do it, a competitor was going to do it, and no matter what would harm your existing business.
100%.
And
so
Dr.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. And Dr. Falwell is very hard to get into to see when he was alive. You didn't just call him and him tell you, come on over. I'm just sitting here. Just come on over. We'll talk. It just so happened that very next morning, his secretary was able to get us in that afternoon. So everything was preordained by God. He didn't need our help. in making any of those decisions, which is what's so cool. Sometimes, we've talked about before, we think God needs our help, and he doesn't. He already had it all ironed out for us.
Yeah, in this same group, the plan was for them to actually take the building. When they got the opportunity to go to the one in Virginia Beach, that was an open door for us. Things had to happen quickly, but we had a strong relationship with them. We had worked with them on 2 other buildings. We knew them. I knew their team well. They knew us. We knew our strengths.
So speaking out to entrepreneurs and businesses,
right.
You really need relationships matter. Relationships with your bankers, relationship with other people in your industry that can advise you and give you strength during the times that you're making those really big, overwhelming decisions. It's really important.
So actually, this is a great topic, and I definitely think we'll be following this show up with a part 2 because I am nowhere even near through all the notes that I've made. But I think this question will sum it up here for us. And I want to pose it to both of you. After Liberty Ridge opened, the defining moment up to that point in your company history, what would you say that you both each individually learned about yourself in those moments? And then what changed you and how to approach future deals from that point?
Well, I think for me, what I learned from that deal, how to make it work. There was never in my mind, I don't think in yours either, ever a second doubt. I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as an option to grow our company in our back door. Just what you said, if we didn't do it, somebody else was. We knew the impact that it could make, and we had a partner in the team that was asking us to actually take this building that we knew well. So all of the stars aligned. Liberty was right there. Dr. Falwell prayed with us, blessed this. He said, this is meant for you to have. With that kind of comfort from him, having him putting his hands on our shoulders and praying with us, it just gave a ton of confidence. So I don't think that we entered that with a lot of fear. I think that we were very confident, excited, thankful for the opportunity. I don't think for me, it really hit me the impact of what we were taking on till after we were already sort of halfway there, because, we were excited with all of the startup. We got to pick and choose. We went to there's a sister facility in Virginia here that we got to go see and point out things that we liked and things that we didn't. We got to make changes. Vickie designed the whole building. So we had a lot of input into it. So we felt like it was ours, and we had a lot of time to pre-market. So we had a lot of marketing in place, and we were established in town. So it wasn't as difficult as if you were new in town and starting fresh. It was a great opportunity. It was the newest place in town. So, I don't know if I ever really approached it with anxiety. Maybe that was just stupidness. But from the standpoint of looking at that, from the opportunity that it posed for us as a company, and it really was a game changer. That building opened all kinds of doors for other kinds of us down the road, even beyond the senior living role as well.
So am I right in saying that it's the 3rd or 4th largest building in Campbell County?
That's
Definitely.
What we've been told.
It's a big boy.
Beyond Liberty's buildings, they're probably the biggest, but I think beyond that, we are the largest.
And cool thing too, you talk about an outside group. We didn't really know this till we kind of took an aerial view and really started looking at the building plans. It's kind of aerial. It looks like a shape of a cross.
That's right.
When you talk about being ordained. It's got a little tail on
That's
it,
right.
but it does look like a cross. So,
when I first built the facility and all of the little nuances, the colors, the chairs, everything that I do, I wouldn't let one chair be out of place. And so what's different now is when I go in there, the chairs are never where they need to be.
No.
And it doesn't bother me anymore, but it used to drive me crazy because I wanted it to always look perfect for guests and people that would come in and choose to be our clients. And now when I go and I see the chairs are moved around, it just means they're lived in.
I was gonna say, you know what that means? It means it's
learned.
home.
That's right.
It's home.
It's home.
For those people.
And I don't get near as upset as I used to that everything has to be perfect, because home's not always perfect. It's just lived in. Yeah.
Well, guys, like I said, there will be a part 2 to this. We got a lot more to talk about. Dad,
Just the tip of the iceberg, I'm sure.
just
Here,
the
huh?
tip of the iceberg. Dad, welcome back. We appreciate you being here. We'll have you back next week. Keep talking about this. But Mom, I know you got a special quote prepared for us. Everybody, thank you for joining in. And Mom, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening in. I really do hope that you are enjoying some of our inside stories. It's always great to look back and reminisce and see what God has done. I have a really short quote today. It kind of follows through with everything that we've talked about. It says, management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. Until next time, I'm Vickie, right here around the table.